Hello and good evening, and welcome to The Truth Behind the Truth. Good evening again, guys, and thank you for tuning in to us this evening. We're so glad that you took the time out of your busy Saturday evenings and to join us here on our wonderful evening of conversation and talk. I want to say hello to our Facebook family, our YouTube family, our Instagram family, and our TikTok family. Thank you guys for taking the time out once again to be a part of us, and our UK family.
Yes.
The ones that are over in UK that are tuning into us as well. We trust that everybody had an awesome week and taking the time to come in and be a part of this wonderful discussion that we're carrying on for the fourth show tonight. Mm-hmm. Tonight will be the Black women speaking. I say the Black women speaking tonight, all affectionately, of course. And then next week, we bring everybody together. Our Caucasian sisters and our Black sisters will be together next week. You don't want to miss next week's show. Okay, yes. It is going to be on the chain, not off the chain, but on the chain. Okay, because it's going to be that good. Be very rich, and we're so excited to hear about what the ladies are going to be talking about next week on the show. We have some dear guests with us tonight. A couple of our guests that were supposed to be here unfortunately ran into a couple of engagements, so they won't be a part of us. But we have my wonderful Miss Dada West, my Mama D, wonderful actor out of Atlanta, will be a part of us tonight, and our sister Ethel Higgins will be back with us tonight. We'll bring them on in just a few minutes. Talk to my fellas first. My fellas. Mr. Barnell, how you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. Good to see everybody.
You as well, sir.
Yeah, it's been a good week, and every week we get through is always good. And I as we talk about stuff, y'all been on me about, well, Parnell, where's your business? So we can start running commercials. Well, I started it. I got my
So I was like, yes.
I'm gonna have to hurry up and get something ready to have my very first commercial running during the show.
Okay, I know that's right. Just send me the pictures and whatever. Send me the right picture. Don't send me no shirtless pictures now. Okay.
Well, that's Harold's line.
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. That's it. I forgot that's Harold's line. I made a mistake. I'm sorry.
Cornell has some. He has some.
Okay. So here I love that. So how's the Good Living Now doing, sir?
Good Living Now is doing good. Can you hear me?
Yes. Yes.
Oh. Good Living Now is doing good. Good Living Now. The reason why I named my company Good Living Now is because people all often say, well, when the kids are older, I'm going to start living, or when this happened. But I'm like, no, you can live good right now. You ain't got to wait.
So true. Sure. I love that. Yeah. So I know she mentioned that earlier on pre-show that you had started a celery challenge at this point for everybody.
Yeah. So today is day 1 of our 7-day celery juice challenge. And every morning for 7 days, we'll be drinking about 16 ounces of juice to get our day started on an empty stomach. And, one of the things that one of the participants brought to my attention is that it was one of Cicely Tyson's regimens. That's something she swore by, drinking celery juice every morning. And
wow.
So it has
celery tonight.
Mm-hmm. Tremendous health benefits, high blood pressure, diabetes, cancer. Anti-inflammation, just a lot of health benefits. And celery is not that expensive. Now, it's not the best tasting juice, I still cringe every time I drink it.
Okay. Can you add a little something to it? Can you add like a little spice to it? A little, maybe just a touch of sea salt or something?
That's what somebody said. No, you just drink it straight. You got to be gangster. You got to be gangster about your health.
A little tomato, some vodka.
Those tomato juice.
Oh my! You just got to take it. I mean, you can't put no. Oh God! You can't put any.
You gotta be gangster. You just gotta. We going for the benefits. We ain't going for the taste.
Listen,
I don't know why they talking about adding things. They had me taking shots on my birthday, so I don't know.
Different.
Taking that ain't different.
That's
so if they can get away with drinking some of that, what we had, we can taste some. We can taste that
celery juice.
Yeah,
wasn't the tequila that celery juice? Now there you go. See that? That would work. That would really get your day going. You know what I'm saying?
My chest all the way through. Have all types of hair on my chest then.
Oh, I know, right? How's your week been? You want to share?
No, I'm so sorry, Pernell. Did you have anything? I'm so sorry.
No, I was just saying we just have to celebrate you. But y'all,
yes,
that was funny when you was laid out on the sofa like.
Oh, was I?
Mary told me y'all laughed at my snoring because I was definitely laid out. But I had a good time this past week. I only just have a little bit of a rant. You know what? I had a situation this morning where I came home from work and I had one of our neighbors. You know, I love dogs. I grew up around dogs. You know, and you know, as a pet owner, I don't know what it is, and I think it's just out here because you know a lot of people have pets out here, dogs to be exact.
Right.
But I think you know when you have a dog, you have any type of pet, you need to have some type of an accountability for controlling that pet.
Right.
And I don't know for what it is, but you know, when people have their dogs not on a leash, I think they assume that everybody loves a dog. Or a dog is very friendly with other people. But dogs are protectors. Dogs guard their owners. Dogs guard their territory. So I'm coming back home from work and I'm just dragging on in from the overnight shift. And I heard the dog, but I didn't see the owner. So she's throwing her garbage away, and sure enough, the dog is just snapping at my heels. And I'm, you know, And to be honest, she wasn't biting, but you know, the dogs play. So I'm like, please, dog, not this. Come on, not right now. I'm tired. I understand that you want to play, and probably at the same time guarding because he was barking too. But I know for a fact, growing up in the country and growing up around dogs, you need to hold your composure around situations like that because dogs can turn in an instant. You just don't never know what's going to happen. But sure enough, I'm just saying, for those who have dogs, you know, control that because a lot of people don't like pets like that. People, hey, if the dog would have bit me, I would have had a strong reflex to hit back. Or to do, or to make, or to kick back and have some injury. But in that moment, I thought about what if I would have had a child on me? Because dogs, I mean, they don't, you know, dogs, like I said, they guard their owners.
Dogs are territorial.
They're very territorial.
So that's their nature.
If a child runs up to a dog and that dog bites them, then we have an issue. But thank God it was just me. But if you're a dog owner, please control that. Don't assume that people like pets. There are some people who are actually scared of dogs and run away from dogs. So I just want to put that out there because out here in LA, I don't know what it is, but people assume that we all love pets.
They made you mad.
Yes, they did.
Your nice ones said they made you mad, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay. But it is what it is, though. I just had to put that out there. Okay.
All right. Well, we're going to go to a commercial break real quick. All right, then we're going to bring on our wonderful guest this evening so we can continue this talk. Black Women Speak.
All right.
Want to hear what they've got to say? And I'm sure we got some cross-cultural conversation that we'll factor into it tonight and a few things that happen throughout the events of the week as well. So we'll bring that up tonight in the course of the conversation. All right, we'll be right back after this commercial break.
All right.
All right, and we're back.
We had an earthquake.
Thank you guys again for tuning in to Truth Behind the Truth. Again, wants to welcome our Facebook family, our YouTube family, Instagram family, and our TikTok family, and our UK family. Mm-hmm. Can I say that 3 times over fast? All right. All right. We're hoping again that you guys have had a great week and taking the time out to be with us on our 4th show of Sister to Sister. All right. The Black Women Speak tonight. Okay. Remind you again next week to pull your, whatever you got going on, cancel it. Okay. To be here next week for our show. All right. This is really, really on a very serious note. This has been a very passionate part of all of us about having the show because we want to find ways to tap in and start some racial reconciliation going on in humanity because we need it. Okay. Because together we're only way we're going to survive is we find a way to get together and have conversations so we can live together. Okay. So this is just our way of being able to express that. We feel that women have the voice to rally people together to get something done. So I'm putting some demand on them. And then these women that we've pulled together to have these conversations, very powerful women, in so many ways of their lives and what they do in society as a whole. Tonight, I've got, one of my dear friends, I call her Mama D affectionately, to be a part of our guest tonight to talk about her perspective on how she sees that this gap needs to be bridged among Black and white, individuals. She's a part of the industry, like Parnell and myself. She's done many films, just a list of things at the acting community. Love her dearly. Then we have back again my wonderful sister, Ethel, that has had her hands in so many different areas of racial reconciliation, even in her own life. So we're really looking forward to digging into with these women tonight. And we apologize for Twana and Melissa. They were supposed to, but Melissa got tied up out of town with her job, and Twana forgot she had a previous engagement with her husband. But they'll all be back with us next week. So anyway, without further ado, let's bring these beautiful ladies to the show tonight. Yes. My dear friend. My friend, I'm gonna call her. I'm gonna put the doctor on her, okay? Because she deserves that accolade. But I'm gonna call her Dr. Diana West. Welcome her to the show tonight. Yay! And my dear sister Ethel Higgins, or I should say, Madam Lady E. Higgins.
Hello.
Ladies, thank you so much for taking time out for your busy schedule and just sharing with us tonight because both of you have such powerful points. I remember, Ethel, you mentioned last week that some of the things you wanted to dig in that you couldn't touch upon, that now you have a little freedom, to be able to express on it a little bit more tonight. Mama D, I know you got a lot in your bag. Okay.
I'm going to try to hold my mule. I'll try to hold my mule, but yeah.
But I'm holding that mule.
Hold your mule.
I have to say this, Mama D. When I caught Blazing Saddles, I thought about you. When I saw Blazing Saddles. I did. I said, okay. I saw Clavon Little. I said, Clavon Little.
Yeah. Miss him so much. That was my big brother and my friend. Wow. My for real brother. I always tell people refer to brothers as my brothers, but that's right. Like my biological brother, yes. And I miss him dearly.
Yes. Yeah. So, ever since that he's been gone as long as he has, in terms of the process of that. But you think about how actors like he had paved the way for so much. You know what I'm saying? And then and finally getting a life because in his time, especially being in Hollywood, was a challenging time. Yeah. You know what I mean? You knew that. At the end of the day, being a sister, what he had to contend with. Trying to get those auditions, trying to get in places, trying to get up there.
Right. And right.
It was a tough time because you figure Blazing Saddles was mid 70s. Late 70s when Blazing Saddles came out, right?
Early 70s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you figure that what he had to contend with dealing with the 60s and coming through the 70s and all that, trying to establish a place right here in Hollywood, had to be a challenge. Yeah. It kind of goes into what we're talking about tonight, but just that racial reconciliation, that's out there.
Right.
Right. That. But take a minute, share with the audience of those that haven't, because of course you've been on the show a couple of times with us, but share with the audience about, your background, where where you've been, in the industry and just personally, and then we'll go into our discussion for tonight. But go ahead, Mama D.
Okay, well, I'll make it really quick, but first of all, I'm just excited. Thank you all again for having me back on the show. And I'm just excited to be with all of these other wonderful folk in the Zoom room here. Yeah. And in the room where we are. But a little bit about me, again, Dieta West and affectionately called Mama D. Everybody, I'm the real one. I'm not the ratchet one. I'm the real Mama D. Okay, I'll leave that alone right there. So I was Mama D. I was Mama D before she was Mama D. Her and Scratch, her boy. But anyway, so moving on past that, I've been in this industry. It seemed like all my life, and like I always tell folks, my mama said I came out of her womb singing, hollering, big mouth. And so she knew that I was destined for something. And so moving on in my life, like I said, I've been in the industry. I am blessed to say that still in the industry at the age of 71. And I say it ain't over until God says it's over. And every breath in my body, like I've shared with you all, I don't get discouraged because it feels like they got all the millennials and the young women and the young men that they're casting in all these movies and sitcoms and all of made for TV. They need a mama and a grandmama, and I can be that. Just give me the money, show me the money, give me the coins. I'll be your mama, I'll be your grandmama. I'm not trying to be. I know I've been cast for in between that 55 and 65. I can look that way. I can do that. But so I've had the opportunity to do some voiceovers and got to Atlanta, and it wasn't it was a kind of lucrative, but not as much. But God had really opened doors for me here as I've lived in Los Angeles, started my career. I love the stage, so I've had the opportunity to do a lot of stage there. You all may know in LA, I know Pernell probably know, the Wilshire E-Bell happened to be my stomping grounds there, where I was blessed to be in some performances and some theatrical things there, some stage plays there. Then moved on and then just decided my job that I had, my 9 to 5 in Los Angeles, the man that I was working for was the CEO. He actually started the WB television network, which is now the CW, and his name is Jamie Kellner. And I had been working as his administrative assistant for about 10 years, and they wanted him to come to Atlanta to run Turner Broadcasting. So he kind of positioned himself with where Ted Turner was like getting tired of when the AOL Time Warner came about. That merger, he wasn't happy with. So they came to the man that I was working for, because WB, the Warner Brothers, came under the same umbrella, and they asked him to come, and he asked my family and I, would we uproot and come? And we were ready. You got to be ready. If you trust God that he has ordered your steps, you can't question that when you trust that he said his word. So we believe, my husband and I, we've been married for 41 years, and we just really trusted that God had ordered our steps. So we packed up our 2 youngins. I still have my oldest daughter and my son-in-law, and 2 grandkids are still in Los Angeles. But the younger ones came on here, and we then things began to happen here. And fast forward after working at Turner Broadcasting, the man that I worked for decided he didn't want to live here anymore, and he took his wife and kid. And they went back to their palatial home in Santa Barbara because he never sold his house. We sold our house, but it was all good because God gave us greater. He said my ladder would be greater than my past, and I'm living in my ladder right now, and it is greater. So that all being said, we moved here, and I got another agent and hooked up with some things, and we started moving and shaking. Then fast forward, the new job that I have now been on for 17 years, it started out as the gospel music channel. And I was brought on by the man who was working and reporting to my former boss at Turner Broadcasting, who then became in partnership with another gentleman by the name of Charlie Humbard, whose father was the late Rex Humbard, who started the gospel music channel. And so the man that reported to my former boss told this person, when they went into partnership to start this network, said that if we can find that woman that used to work at Turner Broadcasting, she would be great to come and help us start this network, because she loves gospel. She's a gospel singer. God has blessed me, gave me some little vocal cords here, so that I sang a little bit. And so God blessed me with that. And so I started there and been there for 17 years. It went from Gospel Music Channel to GMC to Up TV. Then we acquired Aspire TV, which was owned by Magic Johnson. He's no longer the owner, but we're all under one umbrella. And God, I've done 17 movies for working there. God will order your steps, and working in a company as an executive assistant for some of the executives there, and also the opportunity to be cast in almost every movie that they would even create roles for me. So that's where I began my journey, and fast forward to where we are now, working from home remotely, but still working for that company. And God has opened other doors for me too, and I'm just grateful. So that's the long and the short, and too long about
it's all good. You know, I mean, I love to hear that, the stories of that, especially a woman of your grace, and that has seen so much through that, and, you know, and endured. You know, it's very important. I mean, you're an example, especially a woman of color, being where you are in the position and moving forward, you know, that you have. I mean, like, that's a beautiful thing. You know, just real quick, and then we'll get into that. I always would like to share the story how Mama D and I met. You know, it was kind of a beautiful experience. I was doing a workshop for one of the a Christian workshop that this group that does a film festival, and I was teaching an acting class, you know, during this particular time period, and she just happened to drop into class, you know what I'm saying? And she said she just passed it by. She said she saw something going on, so she said she came in, and I had no idea who this woman was. Okay. And you know, I get so grateful because, you know, you get placed before great people, and you never know when you're getting placed before them at the end of the day. So, you know, we go through the exercises and, you know, things like that, and things I was having the class to do. And she told me, she said, you teach like somebody I know. And I was like, well, who? I said, me? You know, I mean, and I didn't know who she was. Okay. And then she told me who she was. I said, oh my God. But then at the same time, she said, you teach class like somebody else I know. I said, oh, she said, Greg Allen Williams. I said, no way. Meaning that Greg, and I studied under Greg Allen, so of course I'm going to take some of his techniques, you know, at the same time, you know, and being able to do that. But that's how we had our common meeting, and I was so grateful. But I was more humbled at the fact that a woman of her caliber, and she said, I learned a lot from you taking your class. And you're looking at a woman of her caliber saying this to you. I'm like, whoa, beautiful, you know. And one other point I'll say that for later. That's too much. We'll talk about acting. We're not going to talk about acting tonight. We're going to be talking about other stuff. Yeah. But anyway,
right.
You know, we keep going on about that. We go far with that. We get far the ball. We be talking about acting all night long. You know. Okay, y'all talk about that acting later on, right?
Oh, no, I'd love to hear it. I love to hear it.
But anyway, we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and then we'll come back in, and we're going to get dig deep into our conversation tonight about Black women speaking. All right, we'll be right back in just a moment. All right, and we're back. Guys, thank you again for tuning in to The Truth Behind the Truth. And again, wants to welcome our Facebook family, our YouTube family, and our Instagram family as well, and our TikTok family. All right, let's get into it, guys. Hey, tonight we're having the Black Women Speak. Now, again, I want to remind everybody once again, we will all be back next week with a big Zoom with all the women, all the ladies, the Black and the white women. They're going to be talking. We ain't going to throw no dirt now. All right. Good thing we're in a Zoom, so y'all can't throw no dirt at each other. Okay. Girl, I'm going to scratch your eye. So we'll be the eye scratching next week. All right. So we're going to be safe categories. Okay.
I don't think it's going to be that.
No, I'm just teasing.
But I hear what you're saying.
You know,
I don't think it's going to be that.
No,
it's going to be very interesting.
Right. No, not at all. Not at all.
Yeah.
So, Mama D, let's start with you a little bit. So, in terms of, if you could say something to start this off night, you say to your white counterparts from a passionate place, what would you say to your white counterparts to start them to looking at the African American community different, especially from a woman of your seasoned caliber, you know, and what you've seen and what you've possibly experienced?
Well, what I have experienced is I basically tell my white counterparts, ask me, ask. If you don't have no fears in asking me questions about what you don't understand, as opposed to trying to pretend like you understand and you're making it even worse. And if you're going to ask me, ask with sincerity and not just to make yourself feel, because you're already feeling guilty. So if I ask let me ask one Black person, what can I do to help? And you don't really mean what you're really not trying to help. You just have to trying to make yourself feel better about what your people, you may not have done anything, or you may not have acted out any type of racial or white supremacy, any acts of that nature. But I want sincerity, and usually you can tell when somebody sincerely, because I have some that I know that are sincerely, they're like, this is a mess, this is a mess. And some who understand this just didn't happen last year. Right. And when they talk about, I think I heard someone talking about this, a wake-up call when George Floyd was murdered by that person. I don't even like to say his name. His name. I don't even like to say it. He wasn't a wake-up call. Right. This has been going on for we all know that 400 years and just a few years. It's been going on forever. So it's just now you all have been. You have to now acknowledge it because it's right in your face. You can't pretend like you haven't seen it. Right. So it's to watch them and to see how many of them have shifted in their seats now that all that this has come to the forefront as it has come, and they're uncomfortable. And I just tell them, don't be uncomfortable. Ask me I will tell you. And then you have to not be uncomfortable with what I say to you, because you come and you want to know. Let's talk about it.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about why you do certain things in the workplace. Let me tell you, ask you, why do you pass me up in the hall and you don't speak? But if I'm walking with someone who's in a higher position, you'll say hello, a white person who's in a higher position that may be walking down the hall with me. You'll speak to them. Why didn't you speak to me? And am I making sense? You know, it's almost like
most definitely.
We become invisible. It's like, am I invisible to you because I don't matter? I am enough. Thank you, Harold. I am enough because I've been created by a God who is more than enough. So I know that I am enough. And in spite of my flaws and all of my whatevers, you stop. I am somebody. I am enough, you know, and I have kind of called people out on that, not in the way that I'm giving it to you now, but I walk past and you pass and you say hello to your white counterpart, and you don't see me, I turn right back on you and I say, and how's your morning going?
Right. Absolutely.
Oh, Deanna. Oh, Mama Dika's on my job. Hi. I'm sorry. I got caught.
Yeah. Like, right.
You lying. You just lying, So, I'm a little crazy. So you all just have to bear with me. And probably
no, but it's fact. It's fact. And that's the thing about it. I was watching. I think I didn't get to see Biden's speech the other night. I missed the presidential speech. But the fact that you have certain African Americans who agreed to that type of situation. I look at politicians like Tim Scott. Is that his name, from South Carolina? Yes. The guy who did the opposing. The fact is that you have those out there that can agree to that type of culture and assume that because we're at the table that things are getting across. Because my black face is at this all white table, things are getting across when that is not the case. Right. You at a job making deals does not wash over the 400 or more than that of oppression that has happened in this country. It's just a deal. It's just money. It's just you being a Republican, just you being a Democrat. I think that's the situation. And I know I'm all over the place, but from your standpoint, when you're in situations where you are the only black face at the table, that should be an awakening right there. Why are right there in the midst of that situation? Because you shouldn't be the only person at the table having to deal with that by yourself.
Well, I would hope if you were the only one at the table dealing with this, that you would be a voice for those who are not at the table, that you would be a voice that would represent those who didn't make it to the table. And so that's what my desire is. I don't mind being, I don't mind being the only one at the table, but if you're going to have me at the table, and I'm in that position, whether I had to go get my own chair out of the other room and bring it to the table, because y'all are not going to bring, I'm going to sit myself at that table, and you're going to hear my voice, because I'm going to be speaking on behalf of my people, people. And I don't care how you sit there and how you may look at me in a way like you're not supposed to be speaking now. No, you're not going to put your foot on my neck or your knee on my neck or a thumb on me and try to hold me down. I've been through many dangerous toils and snares, and I don't have any fears of who you don't tell me who I am.
Right.
I know who I am. That's the key. Right. Let me just say this real quickly about we as a people, black people. You need to be comfortable in your own skin, and you need to know who you are.
Right.
And you need to know that you've been created. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You walk in boldness. You walk in confidence, and you do not allow. We gotta come out of that place. We've been so accustomed to being a certain way, and I better not say that because I know my mama. Yes, you got to stand your ground, because they're going to keep stepping on you, and they're going to keep saying anyway. And first thing they want to say, especially with our men, if you speak you're going for it, and you're they're going to call you angry. That's an angry black man, or that's an angry black woman. Just because I'm talking and I'm speaking my mind, speaking my heart, and speaking. So we got to stand up. We got to stand up
and play the integrity game.
Yes, and I jump in there and it's like, you're damn right I'm angry. Have you seen what's going on still? You're right. Yeah, you're right. I am angry. And I'm hiding the fact that I'm angry about what continues to happen to Black people in this country. So, I mean, we have tried, and I know people supposed to get all up in arms, but we have tried peacefully marching. We have tried the calm protest at the lunch counters. We have tried all that good stuff. So when I see groups like the NFAC out there, the Not Fucking Around Coalition with their rifles and out there marching, listen, y'all ain't the only ones that got guns. Now we ain't gonna start it, But I'm be damned if we sit there and just let you shoot at us while we pray. So
wait, I like that. That was good. I'm not going to shoot at us while we pray. Okay. I like that. Just to expand on that just for a moment. Then I know Heather, I'm going to let you go ahead and say part about that. I like that. That is such a very valid point in terms of our position and how the African American community has been bamboozled by religious behaviors. Okay, see, we're gonna keep praying our way through, when you're gonna shoot up the church. No, absolutely not.
Bombing the church.
No, or whatever. Going back to those things. And see, I now don't miss mistake. I believe in your confirmational piece with your Creator. Okay, that's your individual idea of your communication with that. But see, we've been praying too long and not doing no action. And what has happened is that you while you're praying, you've been walked all over. At the end of the day, constantly walked over while you're busy praying. You run to the church house to pray. Okay, fine. You go in your closet in your house and come out with your gun if you need to. All right, I'm being funny, but you know what I'm saying behind that. You know what I mean? If you're going to go in your closet and pray, come out with an action plan. All right, that's what you're praying for, to get information and an action plan, how to deal with something. Know who. I don't want to. I'm not painting this as to put our white counterparts as being enemies, but I'm just moving this to the point of saying that knowing who you're enemy, because at the end of the day, some of your black counterparts are your enemies too. Hold on. At that point, so we got to be real about that on both sides. I know you. I know you said about that. However, but I like that point, Parnell, that you said about that, because that's very true. And the responsibility of the African American community is not been taking responsibility. You understand what I'm saying by that? We have not taken, because we've been praying people rather than doing people. Okay, faith without works is dead being alone. That is what Scripture said. Faith means get up. Excuse me for being blunt. Put it this way: get up off your ass and do something. Okay, you know what I'm saying? That's the truth. That's the truth behind the truth. Okay, faith doesn't say go there and twiddle your thumbs and say hope God it will happen. That's why we don't see the prosperity in the community that we should, because we're sitting down waiting for God to take care of it. When He give you brilliant minds, got computers, got cell phones, got everything else, but you're still behind. Okay, I'm through.
Right.
I think that one thing is, there's a couple of things I want to touch on. The first thing is the fact that, as far as our communities, we have so much infighting within our communities, it's hard to get together to even move forward. And that's a whole different issue.
Yes.
Because if we already have our own caste system within our own community,
right,
and we're thinking differently about each other, how do we collectively come together and unite to move the needle forward? We still have that to deal with.
Right.
But to take a step back and talk about what would I say to my, to my Caucasian woman, I said this last week, the first thing I would say to is, what were you taught about us? Because before I can go ahead and tell you what I'd like to see from you, I need to know how you were taught. Because if I have an idea where you're taught, I'll know where to inject myself, where to say, you know what, have you thought about this? And we were talking about this. I remember when I was back in graduate school in New York, and I know I was taking a course, and we were talking about oppression. And I remember one of the students said to me, "Why are we still talking about this? Okay, why are we still talking about this?" Back in 2000, and the person felt like they were being attacked because they were white. And they're feeling like, well, you know what? I like Black people, and I'm tired of being attacked for something I had nothing to do with. Okay, so I remember saying to this person, "We're still talking about it because shit ain't changed." That's why we're talking about this. So, as we have these discussions, these racial discussions, of course, with my upbringing, I was always the only person at the table that was a woman of color. But the people, all the white folks at the table got this, and they supported me. And that's the difference. Okay, they're saying, what do we need to do? I was always at the table of people who understood the challenges, who was part of the civil rights era. So, it was a much different conversation. But it's going to be a different conversation when your whole family is white, right? So there's going to be a different conversation. So that's the way I was raised. So I've learned to be able to change and maneuver because I was able to maneuver, because when you have brought up with very active social justice white parents, ministers, I was told, you know what, there's certain things you're not going to be able to do because of how you look, and this is how we're going to work this. But then, just because you're brought up in a white family, you're not going to be a white child. So I got through into the inner cities. My parents made sure I went to African American dance schools. My parents made sure I had a lot of African Americans in my life. They had African Americans in their life because, number one, being ministers, but number two, they were part of the civil rights era. Like I said last week, my father marched in Washington. He marched in Selma. They were part of that fabric. So everything I learned as a woman of color about African American history, everything was by them because they went ahead and made sure they knew about it. And
go ahead. I'm sorry, Eth. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
And one of the things that struck me is I remember my father telling me before they adopted me, you're talking back in the 60s. They went to a very famous psychiatrist who was the director of the child study at the Yale School of Medicine by the name of Dr. Comer, and they said, we want to adopt an African American child, and we don't know if we should or not. He told them, if you have love in the family, then that's what it's based off. It's based off of love, but be ready to cross that cultural line.
Wow.
You don't take her and bring her up white. You take her and be ready to cross that racial line. And that's when that happened, I hit papers. Okay, when that happened, there's a paper, the National Association of Black Social Workers wrote a paper about it. My family and I say that my paper was committing cultural genocide.
Wow.
You didn't do that in the 60s.
Right. Yeah, you're right.
My experience has been, when it comes to this, is that if you were to say to me, what would I say to my white counterpart sisters? Number one, what you taught about us. And if someone said to me, how can I change this? I'd say you better use your whiteness to move the needle.
You're right. Exactly.
Okay? Use your whiteness and use your white privilege to go ahead and push that needle that we have been fighting for decades and are still fighting for that.
You're right. You're absolutely.
Amen.
So true. What 2 points I want to bring out. I know Harold, I know he had a couple. I know you got a couple points you want to bring into as well. The one point that I hear you keep emphasizing, Ethel, is educate. Okay, or education. Okay. And that's a word that kind of runs around, this topic so often, how they educate, each other, or whatever the case would be. But I just wanted to touch on the root of education. Okay. When we're presented in front of somebody in the opportunity of educate means to extract out of you, okay, to bring something out of you that has already been. So if you're in the presence of your white counterpart or vice versa, here's an opportunity for you to be educated and they to be educated. But the one thing that you got to be willing to do is to stop being afraid to have the conversation, to be educated. And I think where the problem comes in is that we see what we see, but we don't want to get past what we see to start the conversation of the educational process, because the apprehension starts, oh, well, she's white, or oh, well, she's black, or whatever. And we put that resistance automatically up there. So it's like everything is said like in a more cautious manner. I don't want to make sure I don't want to say anything offensive. Well, sometimes a good offensive is a great thing to have. You know what I'm saying? Because if you don't go into it with and what I mean by good offense is like, well, you may ask a question, well, why do you see me black the way you, or why do you think black, or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Or why do you see? That's a good offensive question. Because it starts the conversation to rolling, and it's not one that, that you're pointing fingers because you're downgrading the person, but it becomes a way that you're trying to educate them and bring something out different about who they are as a person, in the process of that. But anyway, I just wanted to mention about education because you brought up.
So you're on the right track, but the education is very hard.
It is
very hard. You have to be able to sit down and hear this.
Well,
sometimes people get so weirded out.
Right.
They don't want to listen back. You know what? You listen. My stories, no, it's not fun. But do you have what it takes to sit and listen to my story?
Well, and speaking of that, just kind of like off cuff to a second, but the process of learning is hard, period. Because as we learn, what is it we have to do? We have to do it, change our idea.
And take accountability.
And take accountability for what you have learned.
Yeah.
So the learning process is hard automatically, and you just figure you compile this on top of it. Then once you become educated about something, then you are, like you just said, you're accountable for what you do moving forward. So I think the resistance comes in, I'm gonna say on both parts, is that we get to the point where, I'm learning something, but if I admit to knowing that I know it, I've been educated about it, then my perception has to change. And then if my perception change, then I have to, I got to start acting different because I'm accountable for my actions. At the end of the day, at that point. But anyway, I don't want to go on there. Harold, I know you had a point. Go ahead. I know you had a point too. Mm-hmm. Go ahead.
Well, no, just when you were talking about educating yourself, I just think about people who are in corporate America, who are in the throes, who are just simply stressed out. And, it's difficult to learn when you are stressed out, when you are struggling just to make it, through a day. And I think about, there's so much that we can't control about systemic racism. There's a lot we can't control, but we can control how we allow it to affect us. And so, I think it's so important that we protect our peace, and we know that it exists. We know we're going to be confronted with it, but we have to protect our peace so it's not triggering us. I have a buddy who works in corporate America, and he's always being triggered by, coworkers not inviting him to do things after work, and there's a group of white guys, and they intentionally, they huddle and talk about things, and when he comes around, they're silent, and it triggers him, and he's wondering why his blood pressure continues to be high. Well, you're letting these folks stress you out, and they're going to kill you if you allow them. And so it's so important that we protect our peace by any means necessary, and not allow ourselves to be triggered the way we sometimes allow folks to trigger, because we're stressed out. We're just simply stressed.
Yeah.
But to add on to that, Harold, we have had people in positions within our country's government that should have been in the education platform of the situation. I think about people like, oh my goodness, I don't know why I'm bringing him to Clarence Thomas, Condoleezza Rice, Tim Scott. And Condoleezza Rice, she lived an hour away from where I lived. I lived in Prattville. She lived in Birmingham, Alabama. She knew of the situation of the 50s and of the 60s, living under the tooth and nail of Bull Connor. The fact that many Black people of that time period within the middle class, homes were bombed. And you're talking about a police commissioner who approved of this. And on top of that, killed those 4 girls in the 16th Street Baptist Church. There was a moment in time within the Republican Party, I keep saying this, that there should have been some education right there, because if you're going to live through that time and not say that there is a situation within our police department, within our systems that is still approving of these types of situations, when it comes down to the Dylan Roofs, when it comes down to people going into aromatherapies, killing 8 Asian women, and there's nothing done about this, our police people stepping on people's necks, then there is a situation right there that I have issue with. As an African American, when you have African Americans in those positions to make aware that, listen, y'all, I understand that y'all have y'all's hierarchy, your traditions, but you have to understand that I'm within the confines of this institution, and me as a Black person, you need to hear what I'm saying and understand that we have a situation here. And it makes me mad that these people have allowed things like this to go on for so long. It's not within the Republican Party. There's some people within the Democratic Party that I have issue with too, because it's a political thing as well as a corporate thing. Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's why I was saying, if you have a seat at the table, if you have a seat at the table, then you have to. It's imperative. We have to use our voices.
That's
if you have that seat, and then you named off some folk, and you can't just keep allowing the okie doke when you not only do you have a voice, but many of them have a voice that others are hearing, you know, and then again, you have to protect, like Harold said, you have to protect your peace. I want to say to the brother, why are you even concerned about the white boys not inviting you out for to have a drink with them or whatever? I don't want to be in your presence if you don't want me in your presence. I'm not going to force myself to be up. I'm not going to think of myself less because I'm not sitting at your table at the strip joint or wherever you hanging out at. I again, being comfortable in your own skin. Right. And again, I see where your anger is about the Lisa's, the Tims, the Clarence, all of them. They've chosen the path. They obviously chose their path. Right. And so that's another thing. We got to keep our peace. Let me get my mind off of them because that's not profiting us as us. So I can't be looking at individuals. And I think it was Parnell that talked about the group. I didn't know those initials stood that NF and whatever that. I didn't know even. I thought it was something all fancy, and so I didn't know what that. Thanks for educating me. But like you said, we once you bow down, get up. About 3 or 4 years ago, I preached a sermon and I said, us saints, y'all just pray. God, I won't do. Can you do? Get up after you bow down. Get up and start moving. He can operate. Faith, you got to walk by faith, and faith without works is dead. So that's what we all have to do. We have to keep fighting. I know we get tired. I know we're getting tired, but it's been a fight for a long time. And we have to keep fighting, still keep our peace, walk in dignity and integrity, and not sit at home and just talk about what folk are or are not doing. That drives me crazy when I hear people, you know, black folk need to be, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Right.
You know, we're going to continue to fight. The only reason why we are after that Floyd incident, and I said this before, is because of the body cam. Because if it wasn't for that body cam, it would have been the same old.
Right.
On the other hand, that body cam, the whole world was able to see someone be murdered in real time in front of you.
Right.
But even with that, look how many African Americans were killed within 3 weeks after that.
Wow.
Right.
For some reason, it was like, oh my gosh, people just it's like they got a carte blanche, and you had people within 2 or 3 or 4 weeks, blacks being shot, blacks being tased, thought it was a gun, wasn't a gun.
Right.
This girl, someone was shot. There was that 15-year-old girl who was shot.
Yes.
You know? So it's like it keeps on going. So, and I said last week, where does it go from here?
Wow. Right.
I still want to know where it's going to go from here, because actually when I saw George Floyd, something did not work because it's still happening.
Right. Well, not to cut you off, you know, one of the things that I know, and we all can agree that we've heard the discussion over and over again about police reform, the whole idea. This has been going on for a year, you know, trying to reform the police, quote unquote. The concern here is that it's right now, until we find a way to unprofit what is being profited, it's going to continue, because it's such a major profit behind even a African-American male or female getting shot on the street. They're making money from it. Okay. And they turn it into a monetary thing, be it from the media perspective, being at the news cycle, running it 24/7, 37 over and over again. So until we find a way, and I'm going to say that collectively as a group, but particularly from an African-American perspective, I'll say that, but collectively as a group, black and white together, until we band together to stop profiting these organizations that are behind this, it's going to continue because they're padding the pockets of these people that are in control. You can say that Tim Scott, you can do, I mean, you can all these other names, you know, they all profit, they all get, hey, if you put it this way, not me in general, but I'll just say collectively, if you're giving me $5,000 a month to keep my mouth shut about something, you know, how much money you give me? You're giving me an extra $50,000 a year to do what I want to do when I don't have to work for it, you know? So we've got to find a way, as I mentioned on the show previously, that Johnson & Johnson, number one here with the vaccine and all this other type of stuff, Johnson & Johnson is the number one financial backing of the criminal justice system in America. They make money off of everybody they lock up. They get a percentage off of everybody they lock up. So you can imagine that, almost close to 1 million people that are locked up in the U.S., more than any other country in the world. We've got more people locked up in jail. And you can, I think what it is it's like $100, $150 a week to take care of these people in that area. But Johnson & Johnson makes a profit off of every man and woman that is locked up in jail. So along with that, it comes down to our local systems. You know what I'm saying? The local counties and all those type of things. This is all designed to make money. Traffic courts. Oh my God! Now I understand people need to follow the law. I'm not saying that they're not supposed to abide by the traffic guidelines, whatever. But at the end of the day, do that, but be the type of people that I'm not going to be the one that's going to be speeding at 20 miles above the above the speed limit. Take some accountability for what's going on, because you stop that and you're gonna stop padding the court systems. Then they can't put you, like, unfortunately, I'm just saying this, any given major city, you go to their traffic courts on a week by week basis. I'm sure they pack back up now since COVID's coming, closing down a little bit. But you go in there, you see nothing but African American people in there. Okay, for the majority of people that get these tickets and all that type of thing, and then they come in and they put these astronomical fees on top of a ticket. Okay, and the person walks out. Well, you come to it. Well, you got to pay $800. What? Or you're going to jail. What? So $800,000 they tack on these people, and the next thing they do is they put them in the probation system. Okay, and then they continue to make money off, and they apply. What is it? Financial? What is it?
Bond?
No, the other fee that what's the other fee that you pay on top of when you borrow money?
Correct.
Interest. There you go. Paying interest on money on a ticket. Okay, and keep you in that system for so long, and then keep you locked down pretty much, because if it depends, you can't even travel. So that's another way of paying. If pardon the pun, my counterpart family is that it's another way of saying you paying to be in slavery, because they telling you where you can't go. Well, you know what I'm saying? You can't leave the state. Depends upon what you've done.
But that's where accountability. It's a two-sided, because again, it's a cycle that goes around and around. They do that. You stop speeding.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So we've got to take the measures. Okay, it's fine to point, and believe me, I'm not saying that any of the harmful murders and things that we've seen of African American men and women and whatever the case may be. But here's the thing: the educational piece, like we talked about, we've got to educate the community to stop doing the things that put you in the position of doing that. Until the law changes to support you in a better position, because we can't keep having conversations about people getting shot when you put yourself in a position to get shot. And I'm not saying everybody has done that, at the end of the day. I'm not saying that, but you understand the bigger picture. What I'm trying to say is just let's abide by the situation that typically that everybody has to do, and not allow ourselves to be in those positions so that these bad cops can have the control over you. At the end of the day, and on all points. I'm sorry, I'm rattling on. You had a point? Go ahead, Ethel. You had a point. I'm sorry, I know I'm rattling on.
No. I mean, you make a lot of sense, because when you talk about these people in the system, they're brown and black.
You're right.
And a lot of them don't have the resources or the finances, so they are in this little hamster on the wheel going around and around. Can't afford to pay it. They end up in jail. They don't have support systems.
Right.
There are just so many variables in our communities that impact us left and right. And the education is really important, and the mentoring and the resources.
Absolutely.
There.
Absolutely.
This is where I'm talking about, where people ask me, what can I do? You can use your privilege to help make these changes.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. A long time ago, if you don't understand race, power, and privilege, if you don't understand racism, privilege, and power, then nothing else makes sense of what's going on in our community.
Right.
So that's communities. That's what's ahead and making the challenge for, and even with each other, are those three things: racism, power, and privilege.
Amen.
Right. Wow.
And that's where we get into talking about systemic racism.
Right. Exactly.
as long as I'm gonna say white supremacists insist on Black and brown neighborhoods being valued less than white neighborhoods. Like, wait, it's the same type of house. It's still a 4-bedroom, 3-bedroom house, you know. But for whatever reason, because Black and brown folks live there, white people have decided, oh, it's less valuable.
That's right.
That is tied into how much money goes to the schools in that neighborhood based on the property value of those homes. Exactly. Not a balance in the educational system. And as long as we have Black and brown folks in particular being left behind as far as being hired for jobs, people who have good education and good jobs don't resort to criminal activity to survive.
Right. Yeah.
So as long as we have a system that is still trying to keep, I'm gonna talk about Black folks now, still trying to keep Black folks from rising above, quote unquote, our station, then we're gonna have these issues. We're gonna have people like, well, listen, I can't survive working at this fast food joint or working this regular 9 to 5 or whatever. But I know if I sell some weed or whatever, I can make some quick money to help my family get above, keeping our heads above water. You know, so it's like we set up a system that is determined to keep people down, but then we punish them for turning to illegal activity to just survive. You know, people who have done sex work, it's like, okay, we want to downgrade them for doing sex work, but you have left them with no other option. So get your OnlyFans page, baby, get that money. Because I'm like, listen, I can either make $10,000 maybe a year doing this job, or I can make $10,000 a month going like, here it is, check it out, it's incredible. What am I going to do? I'm going to put myself on that OnlyFans page and do my sex work to do that, because I don't have to do that as long. I may have 6 months to make the money that I need to put a down payment on a house or start a business that I want to do or be able to go to college. So I'm like, if you do what you got to do to survive, and I'm trying not to hurt nobody else, but guess what? Sometimes folks have to do what they have to do to survive. I mean, Layman was about the whole thing about a brother stole some bread to feed his child. People turn to crime because they don't have an alternative.
That's right.
Even our welfare system is not set up to lift people up. It's set up to keep people trapped.
That's right.
That's true. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
So I'm like, well, how about this? Why don't you give people enough money and enough time to get themselves up out of a predicament, as opposed to like, oh, well, we're going to give you this money, but if you get a job, then we got to take that money that we've been giving you. Like, no. Why don't you give people enough money that they can go to work, improve their situation, and as they start improving, then gradually limit the assistance that they're getting once you see that they have to a point where but don't start punishing people to equal what it is.
Right.
You know, so the same thing with our little stimulus packaging. Okay, $1,200, that's great, but in California,
forget it.
$1,200 don't even pay the rent.
Right.
For a month.
Right.
You know, see, like how about this? Why don't you give me $12,000? I can do something for a little while.
But that goes hand in hand to what Biden said in the speech, that he puts the minimum wage up to $15 an hour across the country. And to me, I said that's well and good, but in other states, that's not enough for people who have been working these jobs. And there could be people out of school, out of college, graduate, but they're still making $12 an hour on a job, now making $15 an hour out here. That's not enough. Right. No, and it's not.
You know, even looking at the economics, and I know that's
most of that going to take us off course a little bit.
But you know, it's all, unfortunately, as we kind of mentioned earlier, it's all designed in a plan to keep Americans in a certain position, you know, and it's not like this country can't afford to pay people above the minimum wage, you know, and we could all agree that if a person cannot earn enough money in 1 week to pay their rent, there's a problem. And it doesn't mean you have to have an extravagant apartment. Okay. I mean, let's just say the basic apartment of at least $1,000 a month. All right. Just at the end of the day, if you cannot make enough money in 1 week to pay your rent, then it's a problem. Okay, at the end of the day, but we'll let it go at that. Harold, I know you had a point you're trying to bring in something, and then we'll go on one more point, and we'll wrap it up for the night. Go ahead, Harold.
No, I was just going to say that when I look around, in our communities, I just see a lack of courage. A lack of courage. I just think that people are just so wrapped and overwhelmed by fear. And I heard somebody ask about courage. Courage is not that I'm not afraid. They said courage is fear said with prayer. It's I'm afraid, but I'm gonna do it anyway. It's afraid I'm gonna speak up anyway. And I think that we have to challenge ourselves to find a place of courage within to speak up and to stand up, when we see injustice happening, when we are being treated unfairly, finding our voice, because we can't expect for our children to be courageous if we're not showing them the way.
Beautiful. Maya Angelou said that too.
Beautiful. So my ladies, so what can you ladies say this evening as we kind of bring tonight to a close? We're running into time. That and bring to the conversation, the big conversation next week, and of course your counterpart sisters are watching the shows tonight. That was part of their assignment, so they could have a great conversation between. So hear how you feel, so you hear how they feel. But what would you like to share tonight individually to say to them, to give them thoughts to bring into the conversation next week? Either one you can start. I mean, Mama D, if you want to start.
I would say I would like for them to reflect, remember. And what are they reflecting and remembering? I'm not sure who said, Ethel may have said some, so I'm not sure who was talking about I think Ethel did mention of, tell me what you've been taught.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me what we're in most cases a product of our environment. Mm-hmm. So what was your environment?
Yes.
What did you see? Be honest. You don't, I mean, no judgment here. If you say, well, I do remember that my mother told me such and such, and I saw my dad, how he treated, and I just, so reflect and remember. And again, I'd like to just say to the counterparts, that all we'd like to know is we want to know what you're a product of. And I'm not saying any of our counterparts for next week have lived in situations where they have their dad or mom, or they were Confederates, or they were slave owned, or any of that. I'm not saying that. I don't know. But I just feel there has to be something in your life that you have seen as a white person where you can understand and what we're talking about. And again, I'm not saying I don't know all the women that have been on, the white ladies women who have been on, what their background is. But I just would say to them just to be honest, reflect, and remember, and let us know.
Thank you. And Ethel, you say a point. One of the things that I like that you just said and mentioned is that it kind of sets the mode for how we go into everyday life. And you said something very powerful, that you don't know about the things that they have gone through, or whatever the case may be, Mama D. When you said that opened up a whole, kind of open up a window, open up a warehouse. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And that's on both parts, because we don't know. You know what I'm saying? And then a lot of times we walk into life, walk into situations, and we don't know. But what we do is that we assume, we assume. And that's one of the I think the worst thing that on either part that we can do is that we walk into a situation. Now, I'm sure, my African American comment, well, we've been forced to look at it that way. Well, I get it. But at the end of the day, like Parnell said, and Harold said, well, you're still responsible for your own actions. At the end of the day, you may be walking into a situation. However, you're still responsible how you respond to it when you get there, at the end of the day. Ethel, go ahead with your point.
Yeah, I think that, one of the things I would ask them, I agree, is to, to assess, to think, to remember. And what would your bridge look like if you were to build it? If you were to build a bridge to close this gap, what steps do you think would help with that process?
That's good. That's good.
Like that.
That's good.
It. I want them to build that bridge over.
Mm-hmm.
How would that look, and how would you start that process to bridge the gap to bring us together?
Wow. Yeah, it is. I like that. I think that, even for all of us collectively, what I'd like to see is that one of the things that I think that greatly holds us back is fear, is the spirit of fear. Okay. Mm-hmm. So as a takeaway tonight, those of you that are listening and whatever, and fellas as well, I want to hear what everybody says about fear next week.
Wow.
Okay. And where fear grips you and how you can stop allowing fear to grip you in typically in any aspect of your life, but the fear that holds you back from actually moving forward and what you need to do. So we'll address that part of next week. Okay. That'll be kind of like all of our assignments. And those of you that are listening, our counterparts that are out there tonight will be with us next week. Listen, think about fear, and we'll all talk about that's going to be kind of like our assignment. Okay. In the process of that. Gentlemen, you guys anything want to
share?
What is it
that you fear? What is it that you fear?
Exactly. You guys want to add anything to tonight, Parnell, as we close out?
I just wanted to say, because it's interesting how for years I have been talking about racism being a white person's problem, not a black person's problem. And then, of course, years later, I found out that Albert Einstein said the same thing. Racism is a problem for white people to cure because it was the issue that white people invented.
Wow.
And I was saying, this is why it's so important for white women and white people in general to speak up and speak out against racism. Because when it's just us saying it, we get, you're playing the race card or you're playing the victim, and people can ignore it because it's only saying that this is happening. But I think is one thing that happened with George Floyd, even though we had seen other people being victimized by police, but watching it go on for that long, and that this man was not struggling, and this grown-ass man crying out for his mother while a police officer knelt on his neck, struck a chord in people around the world.
Right.
This cannot continue to happen. We cannot continue to ignore that is going on. We cannot what happened before, even though there's still some assholes, I said it, that kept saying that. What happened before this? What happened before this? I don't give a damn what happened before that. At that time, that man was restrained and non-combative. Stop it, point blank.
Absolutely.
So the world finally stood up and said, enough is enough. We're not going to let this happen. You cannot continue to abuse and victimize Black people and think we're not going to say anything about it. We are finally starting to see police officers being held accountable for the murder and abuse of Black people. It is finally starting to happen. And we're starting to see other people of color recognize if America in particular ever starts treating Black people with the respect that we deserve, that's probably the only way the trickle-down theory will work.
Right, yeah.
Black people, right? Now that goes on to Latinos. Now that goes on to Asians. Now that goes on to the Native Americans, indigenous people. Because we have been treated the worst in this country, because we were the ones that were considered 3/5 of a human being, property, just on the same level as livestock. That was Black people were treated that way. So once we get our due respect, it's going to spread out to the rest of the people of color.
That's a great point. I'll save my point on that for next week. I love that, but I'll touch on that next week. Harold, you got a quick remark, real quick?
Well, I was just going to say, I love that question that you posed for next week about fear, because James Baldwin said it this way. He said, "You can't fix what you won't face." You can't fix what you won't face.
Wow. Woo. That's that Selah moment. I knew I was waiting for it to come up. Thank you, Harold. Go ahead, man. You got something you want to say?
To be honest with you, I just say that this world is now at the verge of a reawakening.
Okay.
And that's all. We are now at the face of at the age of a new reawakening of what it is to take accountability for ignorance, for whose ever ignorance that comes with that. So that's all I have to say at the end of the day. That I think now the world is in an awkward place, but it's in a good awkward place, because we need to be And we need to take accountability. That's all that we, at this point, we need to be reawakened to it.
Well, I know we got to wrap it up. We just talking about astrologically saying that they said that the season of the Earth, the universe is moved into the age of Aquarius, and they didn't know how long we would stay in this particular area, of it. But anybody knows anything about Aquarius, rings represent water, and water is the great way of washing. Okay, so I'm thinking now this is me, but since the universe is in the age of Aquarius, this is an opportunity that we are washing away the old ideas, the change of the old ideas, and we're staying in this until we get it. So it's going to keep getting washed away. It's going to keep getting washed. Then I believe the universe is going to do another shift, and it becomes a new age. You see what I'm saying? A dawning of a new age. Then we won't see the things that all of us on this call, on this show, may not be on the side of the planet when that washing is complete. You know what I mean? But I believe the washing is going on. And I think the change is ever happening. As we speak right now. Hopefully, we'll all be on here, be able to get to see it. That would be a joyful thing. But if we don't, hey, at least we know that we have been a part of the movement that started being in flow and getting in flow to make it happen. All right. Well, guys, we had a great night tonight. Conversation get going, but we're gonna save a little bit more for us for next week and wrap it up with our sister when all the sisters are gonna be together next week. All right. I'm looking forward to be really very, very powerful, and I really want to hear what they want to say. But remember your assignment. Hey, fear. How are you gonna address the fear that you face? In any given situation. Assignment for everybody. Guys, have a great night, ladies. Love you so much. Thank you so much, Mama D, for being here, my sister Ethel. Oh my gosh, fellas, y'all on point. Definitely. Y'all have a powerful night. Yeah, I know, right? All of the above. Wakanda, Wahupa, whatever it takes, Fight it out, Whatever. Exactly. But y'all have a powerful night. Guys, thanks again for tuning in to The Truth Behind the Truth. We will see you next week, same time, when we bring it all together, the culmination of sister to sister, where the black and the white women are going to be talking, not speaking, but they're going to be talking next week. All right? Y'all have a powerful night. Thanks again for tuning in.
Good night. Thank you. Good night.
Good night. The truth.
Good night.
Behind the truth. Good night, y'all.
Good night.
Good night.
This is the dawning of the age of
Aquarius. Yes. I forgot about that song.
Yeah.
Yes.